What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to talk about the news that we got this morning. Cam Newton officially released from the New England Patriots. This is going to have some fantasy effects, obviously. So if at any point in this video you guys enjoy the content, make sure you hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got videos pumping out like twice, 3 times a day this time of year. So make sure to check out everything FSC has to offer. So what we're going to talk about first is Mac Jones, because he's obviously the biggest beneficiary of this, being the fact that he is now the starting quarterback of this team. He's currently going off the board, ADP quarterback 34, 239th overall pick. Now, obviously, that is going to change. He's going to become a guy that's going to be drafted towards the end of drafts, I'd imagine. This is a guy in underdog drafts that was one of my highest owned quarterbacks. He was a last round pick on underdog drafts, so he was a guy I was investing in heavily because I thought there was a good chance that he would win this job sooner rather than later. And he obviously did win this job over the summer. And when you look at Mac Jones, he fits exactly what New England loves in quarterbacks. New England having a 13% RPO rate, which ranked 4th highest in the NFL last year. Mac Jones, coming from Alabama, was 2nd in the nation with over 22% of his total 2020 attempts coming from RPO and screen type of situations. He was also 2nd in play action rate, which the Patriots love to run. He has to be considered obviously below the other 4 rookie quarterbacks if you're looking to draft Mac Jones, because he doesn't offer the same rushing upside that a guy like Justin Fields or Trey Lance does, or even that mobility that Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence offer. So he's a guy that I would draft comfortably as the 5th rookie quarterback off the board. But if you're in a super flex league, I think this is a perfect quarterback 3 for you, because you know he's not going to lose his job. And you know he has some kind of untapped upside as the unknown factor being a rookie quarterback. His ceiling is likely capped around like a Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan type season this year. But that's solid. As a non-Konami fantasy quarterback, it's tough to finish top 10 consistently. But from what I've seen from Mac Jones, he's looked really good this preseason. I think he's at least going to provide that Derek Carr level of quarterback for you. And like I said, if you're in a super flex league, quarterback 2, quarterback 3 option, I think he's going to be a pretty good option at that. So when you look at his strengths as a player and how he affects the rest of the offense, this is a guy that's highly accurate. 84.2% adjusted completion percentage, which was the best in the 2021 NFL draft class at quarterback. Apparently, he's extremely intelligent. Obviously, I've never actually met the guy, so I don't know this for sure, but this is what I've heard. He's a great deep ball thrower, and he's good under pressure. He was the 2nd highest passer rating on deep throws, only behind Zach Wilson in this quarterback class, and the highest quarterback rating under pressure. And again, I said he's kind of a lot Matt Ryan at his ceiling, Derek Carr type of floor, in my opinion. This is a guy that is going to be playing behind a top 5 offensive line in football, and he helps this offense tremendously. So we're going to go through this piece by piece. How does he affect each player? And we're going to start with the running backs with Damian Harris, ADP running back 28, 77th overall pick. Harris is probably the biggest winner of this entire situation, because with Damian Harris, the touchdowns were always going to be his appeal. They were always going to be the way that Damian Harris hit his ceiling, was with a lot of touchdowns. And this offense, for one, is better with Mac Jones operating it. So that should give him more touchdown opportunities. And number 2, Cam Newton had 75% of the Patriots inside the 5-yard line carries last year. So the fact that Cam Newton is no longer there to siphon away goal line carries from Damian Harris is a big time boost for his ceiling. And when we look at this offense and how much they run in the red zone, if we look at from 2016 to 2019, so when Tom Brady was the quarterback, they didn't have a mobile quarterback, Cam Newton, to skew the numbers. The Patriots were top 10 every year in run percentage inside the 10-yard line, and only New Orleans ranked inside the top 10 every year during that time period as well. So this is a team that's going to feature Damian Harris, James White, who I'll talk about in a second, in the red zone. And I hope you bought Harris while his price was low, because I think this is a guy that is going to go in the 6th, 7th round consistently if he wasn't already going there in drafts right now. He's currently my 10th highest owned running back on Underdog Fantasy right now. I'm glad I got a lot of investment into him before his price went up. So the other main running back in this backfield is James White, running back 50, 151 overall ADP for him. He's another big winner of this because he only had 62 targets last year, which was the lowest for James White since 2015. There's probably 2 reasons why James White's a good pick this year in fantasy drafts. 1, Rex Burkhead is now gone, who is the other kind of receiving back in that backfield. And number 2, Cam Newton is a mobile quarterback, or was a mobile quarterback. So the fact that Mac Jones, who's more of an immobile Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan type of quarterback, that's going to be good news for James White. He's going to probably be used a lot more in the receiving game than he was last year. And he's a great pick at the end of PPR drafts, as we talked about earlier today in the must draft running backs video. Jakobi Meyers, who you'll be hearing about from Danny tomorrow on the sleepers video, Wide receiver 61, 154 overall. He could be an excellent value in PPR leagues right now because last year he carved out a 23% target share and Julian Edelman was still on the team. So the fact that this is the guy that is the slot option now, he can play that Devontae Smith role for Mac Jones, the type of separator who moves the chains for Mac Jones. And you guys can see on the screen, his reception perception numbers were actually pretty good last year. 80th percentile against man, 71st against press. This is a guy that's going to be able to consistently get open for Mac Jones and give him some easy completions. And when we look at Nelson Agholor, who's the other main receiver in this offense, he's currently going off the board as the wide receiver 65, 169th overall player. He's probably going to be the deep threat for this team. When you think of the deep threat for the Patriots, you could think of like a Brandon Cooks level ceiling from a couple of years ago. The second highest deep passer rating, as I mentioned, was Mac Jones in this class. So this is a guy that can get the ball deep, and Nelson Agholor showed he was actually good at this last year. When he played for the Raiders, he was a guy that was like a top 30 wide receiver in fantasy, and they signed him to big money. They signed him to $13 million per year. He got the same money that Corey Davis got in free agency. He's actually my 5th highest owned receiver on Underdog Drafts because of his boomer bust nature, the type of player he is. I was grabbing him a lot in Underdog Drafts early in the offseason because I think he can provide you with those boom weeks. And if you draft him in a redraft league, I think he's going to be a guy that you can throw into your flex in a good matchup because I think Mac Jones is a better deep passer than a lot of people are probably going to give him credit for. And then the final pieces of this offense are the tight ends. And Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry currently going off the board. Tight end 15 for Jonnu, tight end 19 for Hunter Henry, both 120 to 150 overall range. So when you look at these two guys, yes, it's a headache to determine which one we want, how they're going to be deployed. A lot of people have made the comparison to Hunter Henry being the inline guy, Jonnu being the guy that is more used in a versatile way, used more like Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski, but for whatever reason. But with Jonnu Smith, I think he's a great late round tight end because pairing him with someone like Cole Kmet, for example, is something that I love doing if I miss out on the Hawkinson tier and the Fant, Robert Tonyan guys that I'm usually targeting at the tight end position. With Mac Jones, when they do pass in the red zone, they're going to run the ball in the red zone a lot with Damian Harris. But when they do pass in the red zone, Jonnu Smith was very good in the red zone last year. He scored 9 receiving touchdowns on only 18 red zone targets, but 18 red zone targets ranked number 4 in the NFL among tight ends. So Jonnu Smith, the athleticism that he brings to the table, the fact that he's great in the red zone, I think he's the tight end to own here. And I think Mac Jones is really going to help elevate the play of him. And I think we've already kind of seen it so far with Jonnu Smith, that he's been used a little bit more in the slot than he was in Tennessee. For whatever reason, they used Anthony Firkser in the slot in Tennessee, even though Jonnu Smith was kind of tailor-made for that role. So overall, when you're looking at this entire situation, this was an offense that I was actually really heavily invested in based on the underdog ownerships. Jonnu Smith actually was my 5th highest owned tight end. Hunter Henry, not so much. I'm more of a Jonnu Smith guy out of these two guys. But overall, this is an offense that definitely is going to get better as a result of Mac Jones starting. Cam Newton was a hindrance to this offense. He always was going to be. Whether they could move the ball or not with a rushing quarterback was yet to be determined because Cam Newton is not quite the same level of rushing threat that he used to be at the beginning of his career. So with Mac Jones now in the fold, I think this offense is going to operate a lot more efficiently, a lot more traditionally. There's going to be a lot more pass attempts than there was last year, which means that Jakobi Meyers, Nelson Agholor, Jonnu Smith, James White, some of these guys are going to be a lot better for fantasy than they were a year ago in the New England offense. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. As I mentioned, if you haven't already checked out the other videos that came out today, I did a mock draft, 12-team PPR, and I also did, me and Danny also did must draft running backs that we talked about our top 10 guys that we're drafting currently on Underdog and overall this off season and into redraft season. So peace out, guys, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.